Right then, time to take a look at these two words, and the two words are input devices. Now this is not going to be a very long video, and I don't know how I'm going to pad this out, because you have to understand what is one of those. As I'm sure you're aware, that is a mouse. Yes. And if you didn't know that, then really you should be thinking about dropping the subject and going and doing something else, to be honest about it. I'm struggling. I'm guessing maybe the opening question on a GCSE paper might be something like, what input device might be used for selecting icons on the screen? Well, you now know that it's a mouse, isn't it? Because you wouldn't have known that beforehand. But yeah, selecting icons on the screen done by using a mouse. In fact, actually, you could do drawing with a mouse. In fact, I'm using a little graphics tablet here, which is a form of input device as well, to annotate on the screen. And I'm using a little pen with a big pad. I could do it with my mouse. I'm going to try it now. Here we go. I'm going to write hello. There we go. That's supposed to be an E. Hello. There you go. And I'll put an exclamation mark on the end. So I could do drawing with a mouse, but let's be honest about it. It's not the best. There isn't really anything when it comes to advantages and disadvantages here. It's what the device used for. And what we really use is a mouse is for selecting icons. You could argue that the little wheel here enables you to scroll up and down through pages. And I suppose you could even argue here you've got the right button, which will enable, right button that's supposed to say, which would enable you to do something like, I don't know, copy and paste or something like that, right click and save picture as. So that's pretty much what we use the mouse for, but ultimately it's really one for selecting icons. And if you've got to come up with a second reason, you could say drawing, but most people really wouldn't use it for that. Right, so you now know what a mouse is. Like, you didn't know that before. Oh my God, what on earth is that? Well, if you didn't know, that's called a keyboard. And a keyboard is also an input device because it lets you type stuff in. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? And it lets you type stuff in, and you can type stuff in like numbers, and you can type stuff in like letters, and it's amazing. Also, there's things like commas and colons and all sorts of symbols. But in all fairness, it doesn't let you type in perhaps sort of special symbols. There's no, for example, I've got that down here, haven't I? Look, copyright down there. Do you see that? I'll point an arrow at it. Nearly got there. I had to use that using, I had to go to insert symbol to do that because there was no keyboard button that has that symbol on it. So there's a range of symbols that you can do, but ultimately the keyboard is used for chucking in letters and numbers and some symbols. Now, interesting, whilst we're here, I'm going to introduce you to a word, but I'm sure we'll be part of the course. This is called an ergonomic keyboard. You'll notice just here, there's kind of a split on the keyboard. And the reason, and I'm not going to do this using my mouse, is that when you type, I'm supposed to be drawing a pair of hands here. There we go. Oh, don't know what happened there. It went black. If you have, I don't know, little finger there, isn't it? And that's some thumb there. What you should really be doing is looking for your hands when you type. It's not comfortable to have them pointing straight in. But try it on your keyboard now. It's not really very comfortable, is it? You actually don't want that. You want this hand pointing in slightly and this hand pointing. That's more comfortable. Try it on your keyboard. No, honestly, do now try it. You go, oh yeah. And that's kind of why we have these ergonomic keyboards. And they're designed to be split to make typing a little bit easier. Because something that we'll come on to later on is this concept of RSI, repetitive strain injury. And when you're typing, you should put your body in the most comfortable position. And it's far more comfortable to have your hands pointing in slightly than it's to have them straight ahead. So I've had to pad that one out because the keyboard is just used for typing numbers, letters and symbols. And yeah, I'm sure you get the idea. Other input devices that according to your specification you are supposed to know about is that. And that, of course, is a microphone. And I'm going to I don't really know how to pad this out because I'm using one right now. I've actually got a little headset on. I'm going to draw my face. There we go. I'm much better looking now. I've got a little headset there. Woo, like that, and I have a little microphone, and there it is. That's my microphone there. And the whole point about a microphone is that in this particular case, I use it to capture speech. In fact, actually, we could say a microphone could be used to capture sounds. I mean, you could go down with your laptop and a microphone like that to your local zoo and record lions roaring, because that is not what is that speech? Is a lion speaking when it roars? I don't know. Do lions have different roars that mean different words? I have no idea. But the whole point is that people say microphones capturing speech. It's not. It's used. A better word to use is the use of capturing sound. Now, I'm trying to think of something else that I could put down here, but I'm really struggling, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything else. So let's move on to the fourth thing the specification says, and in the words in the specification of the Cambridge Nationals R001, it says you are expected to understand 4 types of input devices. Well, no, it says input devices, e.g. mouse, keyboard, microphone, and those. Yeah, you're thinking, what's that? Well, these are sensors, and there are all sorts of different devices in here. And a sensor can be used, and I always think a very good way to be thinking about sensors is, I don't know if your school's got, and we don't have one, but a lot of schools do. They have something called a weather station, and you can have sensors to measure pressure. You even have a sensor on to measure. You can have air pressure is one form, but also just a simple on-off switch. So, for example, you look at your keyboard, and look at your keyboard. Look at it, right? And under each of the keys, there's a little contact sensor, which is a pressure sensor. So you can have sensors to measure pressure. You can have sensors to measure the amount of light there are, particularly relevant to a weather station. Tells you the amount of daylight hours and how sunny it is and things like that. And you use one of those to be technically correct. It's called a light-dependent resistor. A very good example of a light-dependent resistor is cars that... I'm going to draw a car here now. This is supposed to be a car. That's ridiculous, isn't it? That's with the windscreen. But what I'm trying to get at is that some cars, that looks a bit more like it, got headlights. And those headlights come on automatically, and that's because a light-dependent resistor somewhere in the car, let's say it's there, is measuring the amount of light, and if it gets too dark, the lights turn on automatically. And you can even have sensors that measure, an example in the car, you can measure moisture. And some sensors have, it goes, it's supposed to be rain now on the windscreen, they have like windscreen wipers that come on automatically. What other things could we measure using sensors? Just one that I'm going to be very specific about, temperature. And people say that you measure temperature and the sensor for that is a thermometer. No, it's not. A thermometer, I have to be very careful in my drawing here, because oh God, no, I'm really not going to get away with this, am I? There we go. It's not what you think it is. It's supposed to be a piece of glass with mercury or alcohol inside it. And that's a thermometer. Technically, we want to be using the term a thermistor, which is, I've no idea if I need a red pen really, but I don't know what a thermistor is up here. A thermistor technically is a resistor where the resistance changes depending on the temperature. But it's basically a sensor that will capture, if you like, all these are kind of like, I'd like to think of this as physical conditions. Okay, all of these, temperature and moisture and light and pressure, air pressure and whatever it's going to be, they're all physical conditions, and that's what a sensor is. So just to recap, the specification says that you guys are expected to understand what input devices are, and it does say actually e.g. mouse, keyboard, microphone, sensors, other things that you might want to have a look at. I'm mentioning now that I'm using a graphics tablet to draw on this. You could be thinking about things like a touch screen, which we'll come on to in a moment, and possibly even little things like remote control on a television. It's still an infrared device. Or infrared, that's another infrared. That's an infrared sensor. Anyway, hopefully that all makes sense. Input devices.